home now?
We just need to do a couple of checks on you and then you can leave.
As soon as the doctor said I was okay to leave, I left the hospital and went straight to my parents' house. I walked up the pathway and knocked on the door.
Who are you?
I'm your daughter.
What? We don't have a daughter.
What?
We have a son.
My parents saw the look of shock on my face.
You'd better come in.
They took me into the lounge. On the sofa was a boy who looked exactly like me. We had the same hair color, the same eyes. He was my double, except he was a boy.
This is our son, Tristan.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Can I see my bedroom, please? My parents agreed to let me look, but when I opened the door, my room was different. All of my things had been replaced, and the room had been transformed into a boy's room. There were no pictures of me anymore. Instead, there were pictures of Tristan. None of this made any sense. I knew that I had to get out of there and find Edward. He would know who I was. I made my excuses and left as soon as I could. I went straight to find Edward, but when I told him what had happened at my parents' house, he looked at me strangely.
I'm sorry, do I know you?
What is going on? Now Edward doesn't know who I am either. I pushed past him and into the apartment, but when I got inside, I got the shock of my life. Patricia was coming out of the shower. We both spoke at the same time.
What are you doing here?
I watched as Patricia reached out and held Edward's hand.
Who is this stranger, babe?
Babe! My head felt like it was going to explode. As I looked around the apartment, it began to get even worse. There were photos of Patricia doing my job. There were posters and awards given to her for her work as head of the magazine. Rage began to build up inside of me. I lunged at Patricia and started punching her and kicking her. Get your hands off my man! I grabbed hold of her hair and scratched at her face. Suddenly, I felt Edward pulling me away from her.
Look, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave now.
I was distraught. I had no choice but to leave, or they might call the police. I began to wander the streets aimlessly. This is crazy. What is happening? How can it be possible that my own parents and my boyfriend don't know who I am? I walked along the streets, tears rolling down my eyes. Have I traveled to a new universe, like Alice in Wonderland? She fell down a rabbit hole and wound up in a parallel universe. Maybe I was never born in this universe. That's why my parents don't recognize me. And that's why Edward is dating someone else. But seriously? Patricia, of all people? It's the only explanation. That's why Patricia got the job and not me. I walked and walked until eventually I could walk no further. I saw a sign. It said psychic. Maybe I should go in for a reading. I might get some answers. I went inside. Is it possible to get a reading now, please? The psychic nodded. She began to look into a crystal ball.
You are lost. But if you wish to return to where you belong, you must go back to where it all began.
When I heard her words, it gave me hope. I knew what I had to do. I needed to go back to the forest and find that hole that I fell down. I ran back to my parents' house and entered the forest behind it. I walked along the route that I had taken that fateful night. It wasn't long before I saw the hole ahead of me. Now, all I need to do is trip in the hole again and everything will be all right. I jumped into the hole as deeply as I could and tripped over. I felt the crack of my ankle and blacked out. When I opened my eyes, I expected to be in the hospital bed, back in my own reality. But instead, I was still in the hole. It was nighttime and all I could see was the starry sky above me. I was starving and it looked like my ankle was broken. Oh God, I'm gonna die here. No one knows where I am. I wished that I could see my parents and Edward. I missed them so much. I never should have said all of those mean things to them. I would do anything to see them again. Even Patricia's face would be a welcome sight right now. I spoke too soon. Patricia's face appeared through the hole.
Trisha, oh my God, are you okay?
Then Edward's face appeared, followed closely by my parents. They helped me out of the hole and took me to the hospital. The doctors told me that my ankle was broken and I had a concussion too. I must be back in my own universe. It worked. I explained to Edward and my parents how I had traveled to a new universe when I fell down the hole. But as I told my story, they all looked at each other weirdly.
Well, about that.
Edward told me that it had all been a trick.
You didn't travel to a universe where you hadn't been born. We, tricked you. Your parents pretended not to know you, and I pretended to date Patricia. We photoshopped all the photos around the house.
But what about Tristan?
He's just just a paid actor.
And the psychic?
That was just bad luck. We never wanted you to fall down the hole again. You could have broken your neck. We just wanted to teach you a lesson, make you realize what you were missing out on.
And Patricia, what about you?
I'll never say no to pulling a few tricks on you. It was fun.
I felt angry at first, but then I realized they were right. I was getting too caught up in work. I apologized and gave everyone a hug. Well, except for Patricia. She just cleared her throat and left the room.
My sister Lorraine and I are 1 year apart, but we grew up like twins. She was my best friend, my confidant, and my cheerleader. We lived with our dad since our parents divorced 10 years ago. At home, we shared a room, and we did almost everything together. While most of my friends were totally annoyed by their younger siblings, I wasn't. She was a total joy. When it was time for me to go to college, we cried and cried. How would we live apart from each other? Before I continue, please like and subscribe to this channel if you never want to live apart from other people you love most. I attended one of the best colleges in the country, and I was a straight A student. College life was thrilling. The books and lectures were my favorite parts, though. I wasn't into all the drinking and partying. I'd go to coffee shops and book club meetings instead. I'd usually rush back to my dorm to